Hello and welcome to this Business Solutions Podcast. I'm Jim Roddy, the president of Jameson Publishing and Business Solutions Magazine. Thank you for joining us. As always, we're here to provide actual information on how VARs can sell more products, penetrate thriving vertical markets, and improve their business operations. Our discussion topic for today is Thinking Beyond the UPS, How to Profit from the Evolution of Power Management. And our podcast today is going to take on a little bit different format. We conducted a webinar on this topic, and this excerpt that you're going to hear following is the question and answer session that we had at the end of that webinar. And if you'd like to download the webinar and check it out in its entirety, there's a link on this webpage that will allow you to do that. But again, if you want to get a taste of some of the things that we talked about, this is our interview with Ramesh Menon. He's a global IT manager at Eaton Corporation, and he is certainly an expert in power management. So why don't you take a listen? Thank you. First one comes from Tom Timmons from Open Gear, and he wants Ramesh you to talk about out-of-band management as part of this, overall power management. First, can you define for the audience what is out-of-band management, and then if you can talk about it a little bit more in detail to fill in Tom's question.
Great. Out-of-band management, originally what it was a Hewlett-Packard process, and it was a serial cable which was embedded into the power cable from the server. This embedded cable allows the UPS or the PDU to know the IP address of each server connected to it. It also allows some type of software to shut down the server and shut off the receptacle if it's a PDU or a UPS, it then allows you to shut the receptacle that's connected to that server. Does that make sense?
Yes. Is there anything you'd want to talk about in terms of that VARs, any specific actions they should take in relation to this?
There are companies out there that specialize in out-of-band management, where you're using an extra serial cable. By and large, Eaton, while we do that, we have the solutions for it. What we generally try and do for most of our solutions which are launching or just have launched is we try and create our own VPN or virtual private network via software. So the need to run another cable doesn't really exist. Now, that doesn't mean, as I said, that most of our PDUs and UPSs don't have serial ports. Yes, they do. And they do have serial cables if the need is there. But what we're finding out is, by and large, out-of-band management as a process is on the decline in highly managed data centers.
Got it. So another question is, you talked about rack-based heat containment. So talking about that to the end user, what advice do you have for resellers, especially if they're talking to an SMB, an organization that might not be as sophisticated as much on that knowledge base? Do they talk just from an ROI perspective, or what suggestions do you have for the resellers who are listening to this either live or on demand as to how they can communicate that new concept to an end user?
That is a great question. And what I'm going to do is, of course, if you are an existing Power Advantage partner, there are some tools that we're placing out there that will allow you to effectively address this. But in its simplest form, if you're a reseller and you've got an SMB customer, 60 out of 100, that SMB customer pretty much has comfort cooling in their data center, which is either the standard air conditioning system which is in the building already, or in some cases they may have an air conditioner, a window-type air conditioner which is out there. Basically comfort cooling, not a whole lot of humidity control. And then, you know what? The funny thing is, in most cases, that's all they need. Mm-hmm. So when you're a customer and you're going out there and you're trying to figure out whether or not, if you're a reseller and you're going to a customer and you're trying to figure out whether or not that particular customer needs HCS or a heat containment system, what you do is you ask one simple question. Have you found any of your racks to be running hotter than what you were expecting? And if they say yes, what you now have is a potential customer, because that particular rack is basically a hotspot, and it is degrading the performance not just of the equipment in it, but it also may be degrading the performance of adjacent racks. Right?
Got it.
So that's one way to figure out whether that customer may need it. Once they say yes, then we have a host of tools that will allow you to actually measure whether it really is a requirement to have heat containment, or maybe they just don't adopt some best practices like using blanking panels.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A 50-cent blanking panel or a $2 blanking panel sometimes can work wonders.
Okay, and tying in with that, another question is, so when you're explaining this to somebody, are there objections that are going to come up where they say, hey, we've never done it that way before, or I'm comfortable doing it this way? Is there any objections that resellers should be prepared to hear when they're presenting this concept of the heat containment to the end user?
There are always objections that are going to come up when it comes to spending money, especially if it's a new category. Right? Some of it is because they don't understand it,
mm-hmm.
and some of it is because they're not sure if they need it. Now, I can't guarantee that in every particular case they're going to need it. Right? They may very well be, as I said, some cases where you can solve it with a $2 blanking panel. But there are going to be other cases where you cannot. And if you go into Eaton's Power Advantage Partner Program, as we start pushing the right line heat containment system out there, we will be putting forward a best-of-breed frequently asked questions and a project detection kit. Right? So we will help you with that. If not, my simple advice would be, once you figure out whether or not your customer needs this, what you do is you go in and read the application note 106, which will tell you how to measure the return on investment, and that speaks for itself. If there is a return on investment, if you're going to make that money back, most objections go away.
Got it. So it does come down to that ROI part. If you can take it from beyond the technology to almost a math equation, that's how you're going to convince the controller, the CFO, or the president of that company in order to do this.
Exactly.
Got it. And Ramesh has given out some URLs, and you can see them in his presentation. Just so everybody knows that those will be available. The whole presentation will be available as a PDF download. So if you can capture all those URLs, you'll be able to get those back to the PDF. So Ramesh, you'd mentioned the Power Advantage program. Can you talk about, there are folks on this, I know from the registrations in advance, who aren't Eaton partners. Can you talk about how they can register to become a Power Advantage partner?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that, by the way.
Sure, not a problem.
The Power Advantage Partner Program is Eaton's channel partner program, and if you go to the Eaton website, or if you go to poweradvantage.eaton.com, what you can do is it will lead you to the landing page, which will allow you to register.
Got it. So that's poweradvantage.eaton.com, correct?
That is correct.
Got it. And so one other thing, and so we've, at Business Solutions, we've done a host of webinars and podcasts talking with vendors and distributors. And so, Ramesh, I'm guessing you'll wholeheartedly agree with this, is the vendors and distributors are looking to be that resource for the resellers. And one of the frustrations that we hear from vendors and distributors is they don't have that open line of communication, and they want to be able to talk more with the resellers because they're really there to solve their problems and help them make more money. I'm guessing you agree with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Got it. And so what's the best way? There's the website. What other things can somebody do beyond the website? Is just simply, contact information or send an email to start getting that communication flow going with Eaton?
I have to say, Jim, and I'm laying this out there saying I didn't pay Jim to ask me this question.
Okay.
But once you go in and you register as a Power Advantage partner, what usually happens is you will be allocated an inside sales representative.
Mm-hmm.
And this inside sales representative is going to call you, find out your profile. It will take you through a couple of questions, and then you will be allocated to a specific territory and a territory sales manager, outside sales manager, who will then work with you to put in a business plan depending on what your needs are and depending on what your customer profile is. They will ensure that leads start flowing to you,
mm-hmm.
and there is a communication back and forth with most of the time a real-life person, as opposed to just emails that go someplace.
Got it. I'm happy to answer the question because, like I said, our entire magazine's focus is connecting resellers with vendors or distributors, so you can take care of folks. So we do have another question that came in. This is from Ron Burns at Think Connected, and his question is: data centers are moving toward billing power in actual use based on kilowatt hours. How does Eaton Eaton address this requirement?
What we do is we look at this and say, you can do billing at multiple levels. Our power distribution units, the rack mount PDUs, most of them are engineered for 1% billing accuracy, because at the end of the day, billing happens at the receptacle level. So you can aggregate it for a PDU, or you can take it down to a bunch of receptacles. We have a suite of products that will actually help you to do exactly that.
Got it. Okay, so it's going again through that whole communication system that we talked about.
That is correct.
Hey, another question for you, Ramesh. I know we're moving on the top of the hour. We want to get all this information. So there's a question earlier about communicating the rack-based heat containment to the end user. How about, and you talked about that evolution for the reseller going to that service provider cloud era. What tips do you have for the resellers who are viewing this webinar about how to communicate to the customer to get them comfortable with somebody else taking control of their IT? Because that's a pretty big stretch for an executive to do that, to hand that over.
Well, yes and no. I have a bunch of data which I didn't put in this presentation, but that is already happening real time. Mm-hmm. Right? What we are seeing, and this is really explosive growth of the solutions provider out there, who is actually providing infrastructure as a service. Right? It's called IaaS, infrastructure as a service.
Yeah.
What has been going on is that most of the drawbacks, or most of the people who are holding back, are not putting their financial processes on a cloud. Mm-hmm. But they're subcontracting everything from email, which is usually one of the first things one of the first processes that go into the cloud, all the way down to their sales process. So you are finding that for small, medium businesses, other than their financial processes, pretty much everything else is going to the cloud on an accelerated basis. So if you're a reseller and you want to go and talk to your customer about this, if you're a Power Advantage Partner reseller, just raise this issue up to your inside salesperson, and then we will provide you with the data of what's been happening in the market. If not, I would urge you to just go out there and search for the data, and you'll find out that if your customer is reluctant to do it, he's in a minority, and there is a whole bunch of reasons why it is less expensive and probably as safe as anything today in terms of just web security.
Right, that's true. That's when we've talked with other resellers. When they actually do dig into the cloud, it can be more secure than what somebody who's not in the cloud is doing right now. Or they have other applications that they don't even realize, whether it's through Google or something else that's actually in the cloud already. They just, they weren't aware of it, and so they just get a little nervous about something. They don't have anything to be scared about.
That is correct.
Got it. So those are all the questions that we have, and that's about all the time that we have for today's webinar. Hopefully our discussion has provided you with insight and actions you can take in the area of power management. And also, again, as we said earlier, this entire presentation will be available on demand, and also PDF downloads will be available through the link that you had for this webinar, and also on bsminfo.com. So if you want that information in writing to refer to, you'll be able to have that available to you. So before we go, I want to say a few thank yous. First, thank you very much to Ramesh Menon from Eaton for joining us today. Ramesh, that was excellent data for the resellers. We appreciate it greatly.
Thank you for the opportunity, Jim.
Sure, glad to talk with you. And also thanks to Eaton for sponsoring this webinar. For more information on Eaton, visit their website at www.eaton.com. And thanks to you so much for watching and participating in this webinar. Our goal at Business Solutions is to provide growth strategies for the IT channel. For more information, please visit our website at www.bsminfo.com. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.